first off, wow, Notre Dame Cathedral got
Yeah.
caught fire just yesterday, and that sucked. You know, how do I go about discussing this? So, I'm an atheist, but despite that, I felt very saddened by the fact that it had caught fire because to me, it's not just about it being a church, but being a piece of history. That thing's like 750 years old or something like that.
It's
Um,
older than that.
is it older than that?
It was
Yeah.
12th century, I think.
Like, because I know part of it that they were actually going in there to restore was from the goddamn 13th century.
I want to say it was about 850 years old.
Okay, so I'm 100 years off. Still really fucking old. We don't have anything like that here in America. And it's one of the things I envy. It's one of the things that I, as an American, envy about Europe is that they have a history that goes back thousands of years, and they've got monuments and artifacts and relics, and their history's all around them. And,
Almost like Europeans have culture.
right.
Weird.
Not to say that we as Americans do not. It's just they've been around a lot longer. And that's a whole nother discussion. But in any case, so it was a very disheartening thing to hear about and then to see it. Regardless, I made my jokes anyway. But jokes aside, it was a very sad thing. And then I was struck. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but I wasn't thinking about it. There was a lot, and I don't see it being talked about in mainstream media anywhere. I was listening to my local news station or talk radio station, KFI, and they were talking about the fire, but they were talking about how on social media there was a lot of support, a lot of, expressions of support and sadness and well wishes and blah, blah, blah. But I, however, I saw a lot of negativity. I saw a lot of celebration on the hands of a lot of people who I would suspect are Muslim. I saw pictures of people smiling with the cathedral in the background on fire. I saw video or saw and heard video of the fire, and people, it sounded like people were shouting, Allah Akbar. And apparently, I saw articles that listed a series of churches in the recent, I'd say the last month or so. There's been just a torrent of churches, something like 7 to 10 is what I've heard, that have been vandalized and or set on fire. Not like they burnt the whole thing, apparently, but little fires here and there. So this immediately made me suspicious that this was more of the same. And then with the seeming outpour of celebration from the Islamic community online in social media, I thought, well, this could be maybe that. And I thought, well, that would be bad. Now, so far, just to clarify, mainstream media has come out and said that this was not arson. They've ruled out arson. They've ruled out a terrorist attack. Huh?
Have they actually ruled it out?
This is what I heard. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know how recent your thing is, but for me,
maybe a couple hours ago.
Yesterday evening, it was that they were assuming that it was an accident, but they really didn't have any evidence one way or the other.
Well,
and that they were going to investigate.
and that's why I want to clarify. According to mainstream media, what I'm hearing is that they've ruled out arson and they've ruled out terrorist attack, and that this was likely something to do with. I guess there were renovations taking place at the cathedral, and you would think there would be more specific as to what caused it, but I'm hearing vagarities like, well, it seems like it could have been somebody leaving, something on that smolders and it caught fire, and which seems very vague and kind of suspicious to me.
Yeah.
Now, I've also heard that non-mainstream news sites and outlets are reporting that it was intentional and that it was related to a terrorist attack. I don't know. I guess the verdict is still out. One of those is obviously fake news.
Yeah.
I don't know which one yet.
Like it's probably a little bit early to speculate, and I think that one of the reasons that they would have immediately come out and been like, guys, it was probably an accident, was literally to prevent this sort of well-meaning fear-mongering that can happen
Right.
in the grand scheme of things, which I wholeheartedly understand. But here's the thing that I kind of noticed, because I'm sort of on the, okay, let's look at this from the possibility of it being an intentional act thing. Why in God's name would you wait until 4 days after priceless shit was moved out of there to light it on fire? If you're really trying to go, balls to the walls and tear some shit up, you're about a week late. Literally,
and no one said terrorists are smart.
Well, the other thing too
that's where I was going to go with that. I was just going to say it's possible that they intended, and this is all hypothetical, but it's possible they intended to catch it while the things were still there, and they were a week off in their understanding of the scheduling. Like, oh, we thought the stuff was still there. We didn't know it was moved out a week prior.
Right. Here's the other thing to bear in mind is that the damage, so because of the sensationalist nature of a lot of the immediate reporting yesterday, we were really led to believe that like the whole thing was just burnt to the fucking ground, which is not the case at all. At all, not even a little bit. And here's the thing, like literally everybody was like, oh my God, the stained glass windows, literally one of them fell. One. We lost one stained glass window. Everybody calm down. Right. It's okay. Like it's not great, but it's not as awful as people are flipping shit about. And all of the really priceless artifacts that really, aside from the architecture itself, a lot of the history that is encased in that building was either salvaged or not in it when the fire happened at all.
There was a ton of stuff. From what I heard, there was still plenty of stuff in there, but there was a human chain that had been created.
I bet there was.
and sorry, using that human chain, they anything that was easily picked up and pulled out of there, they did so, and they got it out of there. And they, from what I understand, I guess somebody from the fire brigade or whatever they call it over there, said that if they had waited 15 minutes, just 15 minutes more, then everything that they were able to salvage would have been gone. Right. So, that's great that they did what they did. They acted quickly. And I thought that was great. Apparently the bulk of the damage was from a spire that was added. That was added in 1989. So we're not even talking about damage to something 850 years old, which is great. Yeah. I love that news. I think that's awesome. There's already been $700 million pledged to the repairs of the cathedral, which is absolutely wonderful. There's no estimate as to how much it's going to cost yet, so that could be more than enough. It could be under. I don't know.
I would imagine that if that is anywhere under, that the global crowdfunding for this thing will be through the roof.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like shit. Salma Hayek's husband just offloaded. I think, and I could be wrong on this number, but it was something like I'd like to say it was like 10 million or somewhere in that area that he had pledged. I should have found that article before I mentioned it. But yeah, I mean, people are definitely about the whole let's do this thing life. Also, the church isn't fucking taxed. Maybe they could foot the bill.
Yeah.
Just saying. Wow, everybody went really quiet when I said that.
Sorry, I apologize. I muted myself because I was blowing my nose.
You felt like everyone chewing at the same time, I think.
Okay, because I was like, Jesus, I didn't think it was that damn controversial. Everybody calm down. Like, I'm not happy it happened. I'm just looking at it realistically as, we lost what we lost. But I worry, like I said, I really do worry that there's already, unintentionally, mind you, so much fear-mongering happening. And like, it's basically like when a detective is researching, he's detecting a murder case. Investigating is the word I was actually looking for, by the way. Investigating a murder case, and he gets it so set in his head that this is our suspect, this is our guy, that before you know it, he's missing other leads that are actually going to lead to what actually happened, because he's got this tunnel vision. And I just worry, with how sensationalized everything has already proven to be, that that's what's going to happen. I'm
absolutely. We draw conclusions now and look for evidence.
Yeah, so I'm sort of inclined to say, let's have our little chat about it and then fucking dog ear that shit until we know more information. So that we at the House of Augur are not like feeding into that. That is literally my only concern about the track of this conversation, because Augie, I can hear you putting on the very face style tinfoil hat. And I'm just oh my God,
I'm really not.
So before you know it, I'm going to compound with that, and it's going to be all bad. And before you know it, we're going to have the whole fucking Vatican tied in, and it's just not good.
No, here's the thing. I just wanted to, I want to clarify that I hope that it is just an accident, because if it's not, and here's the thing. My idea is, or my perspective is this: if they know that it's not an accident, they're not going to tell us that right now. They wouldn't. Not considering the context of where France is politically right now. There's a rising nationalist movement, and that is on the edge of it's a powder keg over there. I mean, they just went through the Yellow Vest riots. Macron's holding on by a thread. And if this turns out to be in any way related to refugees, to immigrants, to Islamic terror, it's going to set off that powder keg, I really feel. And so the media, the French media and the French government, have a vested interest in making sure that this is not it related to that in any way whatsoever. And I really hope that is the truth. I hope it isn't. You're right. We should not speculate. We don't know. I'm not saying it is that. But I'm saying that the results are not in as of yet, in my opinion. They're saying that it doesn't look like it. Some are saying it's an accident. Some are saying it's not. I'm just glad to know that there's been such an outcry of support.
Yeah.
And that's great. There was a vigil with literally thousands of people today in the streets of France singing, from what I understand, like French hymns or something like that. It was really touching.
Also, side note, and this actually made me really happy to hear, because everybody's been so focused on the artifacts and things that could have been destroyed, and the obvious architecture and history, but there was literally not a single injury caused to a human being by this fire.
Yes.
And I think that's something really great, because
two were injured.
Well, fuck them.
No deaths. No deaths though.
Okay, fair enough. See, I read no
deaths.
Injuries at all.
Yeah.
But even then, with no deaths, and if there were only 2 injuries, I can't imagine that they were life-threatening if we haven't heard that much about them. But here's the thing, like, that, as cheesy as this is about to sound, that is fucking cool, because if you look at the shape of that building and everything around it, that could have had seriously bad fucking potential for human.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like seriously fucking bad. You know what I'm saying? So that was like my little warm fuzzy. I'm like, yeah, it sucks to lose the architecture or any of the artifacts, but like people are okay, and that's okay.
Yeah, there's such high areas in that building.
Mm-hmm.
The potential for something falling on you and crushing you is just it's
yeah, or the floor giving out beneath you and you falling to your unholy death. I mean, not really unholy at that point. You're in, goddamn, probably going to heaven just on that alone. But yeah, no. So I thought that was really cool that there was apparently only 2 injuries. I had heard that there were absolutely none. So
here's another cool thing is that of all the things to help in the rebuilding effort, what might help save the day in the end, video games. So Assassin's Creed, in one of their games, Notre Dame Cathedral was a focal point. And to do this, the developers took very, very detailed 3D mapping of the cathedral.
Yes!
And all I'm saying is...
Assassin's Creed 2?
Unity.
The future belongs to gamers.
Yep, gamers are finally getting to rise up.
I'm about to place
we do live in a society,
in the chat,
but we are finally getting to rise up.
That's fucking awesome.
It is
nicely done. Nicely done to your people, Best Adam. I love it.
Fantastic. We can rebuild it in Tetris. Nice.
We have the technology.
So, there was something else I wanted to say, but people were giving. I guess Trump responded. He tweeted pretty quickly after news broke that the cathedral had caught fire, and stated that he hopes that he hopes it's salvaged, yada yada, and gave an idea. He said, send tankers, fly tankers of water over and get it out quickly. And I guess. Right. People jumped on that, decrying that absolute lunacy or just foolhardy or ignorant and I don't understand that because
at this point, because of everything else, Trump could literally be like, "Hey guys, here's the cure for cancer." And everybody like, "Oh my God, this is racist bullshit." And Bert, I mean, it's the man could genuinely.
We want the freedom to have cancer. How dare you take that from us?
Exactly. Like you can't assume our cancer status. Like here's the thing. I think at this point, genuinely, and I've always been kind of like on the fence about Trump. But here's the thing. At this point, the man could do something that would win anyone else a Nobel Peace Prize, and people will find a way to call him a piece of shit for it, no matter what. Whether it's warranted or fucking not, he's a piece of shit. So that's to be expected.
Oh, that's too funny. So I thought that was kind of stupid that everybody was jumping his shit for that. There's other things you can, it always seems that way. Like they just like to jump on him for the stupidest shit. It's like really.
And here's the thing: it's not like he hasn't given us good fucking reasons otherwise. Like, but people are making shit up anyway. I'm like, wow, okay, like let's not worry about the actual fucked up shit. Like, yes, this is a big deal.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to be mad at Trump for.
That's not one of them.
Flying water tankers. It's pretty low on the list.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Seriously.
Agreed. So
it's like, is it kind of weird and off the wall? Sure. Yeah, I'll give you that. But is it worth, the drawing the Krasenstein brothers within 5 seconds of him tweeting it?
The Krasensteins. God, I can't stand them.
Honestly, I just laugh. I'm just like,
they're awful.
They live their entire life just lurking on Twitter, being like, "Is it going to tweet? Is it going to tweet?" And then as soon as he does, boom! Like, it's just like
that's too funny.
It's so sad, like that people do this.
Jack says Adam is such an everyday normal guy, which.
Yeah, he
I
is.
would say that makes what's funny to me is that kind of makes him the exact opposite of.
Yeah, that makes me stand out here.
He is the moon to your son, or vice versa, whichever Adam prefers to be. He'd probably be the son because he's more religious. Are you religious, Jack? You better be. Better pray to God because your ass belongs to me. No, just kidding. So let's move on to Star Wars Episode 9.
Yes.
Just a couple of days ago, the trailer dropped, and I am not impressed, nor am I hopeful.
Yeah. The biggest news,
really
of course, was the title, which, if you did not hear, it is Star Wars Episode 9. Let's just pretend it didn't happen.
No, because okay. So do you know anything about the? It is the Rise of Skywalker. It's the Rise of Stupidity, as I call it. So, it seems, if you haven't seen the trailer, I would recommend go watch it. I guess I should post a link to it. Give me a second. What did you think of the trailer, Adam? And what do you know about the story, if anything? Have you? I mean, you're pretty good. You're a pretty big Star Wars fan, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you've looked into what the hang on a second. What the script is? Now, this is not the guy who did the last one. This is
this is the guy who did 7. Yeah. They're back to that.
Right, because the guy who did the last one fucked it all up.
Yeah, I mean, it was already screwed up.
It was.
Yeah. People give 7 way more credit than it deserves, in my opinion. 8
I think
was
it was a
just
lot
like,
of fan service.
It was. Yeah, okay, so there's the trailer. So first things first. As for the trailer itself, because we'll talk about 7 and 8 in a second.
Okay.
As for the trailer itself, it is very classic teaser trailer in that it reveals basically nothing.
Yeah.
All it did show is Rey in a desert, and then a TIE fighter starts charging at her, and then she kind of does this kind of Matrix jump around it, and it's weird. See it for yourself. But
Yeah.
the other thing of note, aside from that, the name of the movie, and it was The Emperor's Laugh. So apparently the Emperor's back, because...
Yep. Well, and the title would indicate that, because in the last film, okay, spoilers ahead, everyone. So in the last film, Skywalker is gone. He's done. He's dead. Luke is dead. So the title is kind of confusing to me. The Rise of Skywalker. He's dead. He can't do anything anymore except be like one of those hologram spirits, I guess. Unless it's referring to somehow, what's her name again? Rey?
Rey, yeah.
Unless they're tying that in, they're writing in that she's somehow related, which maybe they could. Anything's possible at this point. They brought back fucking what's his name? Can't think of the Lando.
Yeah.
Who I cannot for the life of me remember that actor's name. I'm horrible with
Billy
things.
D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams, who I'm surprised by because I thought he got cancer or something and it fucked up his face.
Huh.
But I guess not. I don't know. So this dude does the best critiques since original Red Ladder. Okay. You're not. You're such a strange duck. Anyway,
I wonder if he's capable of communicating in anything
I'm reading the
other
chat.
than YouTube
Is
videos.
where I'm getting that. So it doesn't really give you much. You see Kylo Ren. He does a couple of things. He's messing with his mask. He's fighting on some battlefield. You've got Skywalker saying shit in the background, like this is your moment or time or whatever. All of our training, everything we know is in you now, which I don't know how that's possible. You never trained her. Nobody ever trained her. And yet she's just magically able to do all this crazy shit. When did that happen? Are we retconning that? What's going on?
The sequels have been a train wreck since the beginning.
It really has.
I think no one wants to admit this, but 7 was just as bad as 8. Like, to be perfectly blunt. I think we were all ready to get another Star Wars. It had been so many decades, and we were all just so nostalgic, and then we wanted so bad for it to be good. It wasn't. It was not a good movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you that 7 wasn't that great. I wasn't when it came out, I was one of the people who was speaking out against it because in my opinion it was a lot of fan service and a lot of nostalgia. It felt like they just repeated the story from the first.
Yeah, from the original, because they did. And J.J. Abrams even said that. Like, he's like, yeah, I was going for, the feel of the original, and it's...
there's one thing to go for the feel of the original, but
it's like, you ripped off the plot, directly.
I did! The fucking writing was, so, let me get this straight. There's a giant... super death weapon.
Yeah, they've made 2 Death Stars before. Both of them got blown up, and so it's like, let's make an even bigger Death Star out of the planet.
That's all I did. This time, it's the size of a planet. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Everything about.
And somehow the Empire is back, but it's not the Empire. It's the First Order because we got to change names around due to some. To make you think it's not the same thing.
I just read that the voice actor for Admiral Akbar was caught at in an interview somewhere saying that he didn't think that episode 8 that the what they did to Akbar was fair. He feels that the writing was poor.
Even Mark Hamill hates 8.
Right. So Akbar gets blown up, if I remember correctly.
Nobody liked 8.
And then you had who was it? Like Admiral Gender Studies comes in and saves the day by sacrificing herself. And I think his name is Tom Kane, is the voice actor for Akbar. Tom Kane flat out said, who is this woman? Nobody's invested in her. Nobody knows who she is.
Yeah.
It should have been Akbar.
Makes this bland sacrifice himself. And it's just we don't care. We hated you the whole time, so please blow yourself up, because that's, let's sweat off our back.
It's pretty bad. So,
the problem is the sequels are trying to be 2 very different things. They are trying to simultaneously bring the nostalgia of the old movies by having, the main cast, you have Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, all them. And they're also trying to push these new characters and trying to move on into this new story. You really can't do both.
No, it should
the show every time.
I kind of feel like there was a way to do it, and what they did was not that way. I think 7 should have been a continuation of the old story, and it should have been focused on the old characters primarily, without introducing anything new. And then in 8, you take somewhere around halfway through that film, or a quarter into the film, you start to pepper in a couple new characters or a few new characters, and you kind of mesh them together, and then 9 should have been sort of the passing of that torch. I think that would have been, I'm not saying that would have been perfect, but I think it's better than what we have. And I think
maybe
it's, it's funny to me, they took Rian Johnson off of off a 9 because of the way 8 went. And they gave it to J.J. Abrams in the hopes that J.J. could salvage or right the ship, as it were, from what Ryan did with 8. But I don't see that being the case. I'm not hopeful that will happen. Not from what I see.
No,
but I don't know. I don't know too much about what the.
At this point.
I don't know. I don't know too much
about
about
in my book.
Well, he's done good things, and for that matter, Rian Johnson has too.
Star Trek movies are good, but
JJ did. Yeah. Right. His new Star Trek movies are his. That's right, and those are great. You're absolutely right. Those are good. I enjoy those, but I don't know. It's curious to me how he can go from taking another franchise and doing it justice, and then fucking this one up so badly. I don't understand how that's possible. Now, Rian Johnson, I guess one of his first films, if not his very first film as a director and a writer, was Brick, which is this came out in the early 2000s. I want to say 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. Brilliant movie. Absolutely wonderful. Kind of a film noir. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. So, of course, when I heard Rian Johnson was on board, I thought, well, that's going to be an interesting take. I think this will be hopefully a good thing. And it was anything but. And then who's that woman that they had involved? You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Did I lose? She's the one who said like the force is female.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're back on Star Wars now.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. Yeah. So the woman they have on the Star Wars team, I think she's Kathleen Kennedy. I think she's been fired as well.
I hope so. I honestly kind of just pieced out after it's just like, nah. You had one shot to redeem 7, and you managed to dig a deeper hole and also light yourself on fire.
I mean, I thought that. Here's my opinion. I felt that with the issues that I had with 7, I thought it's still salvageable. You did some fan service. You kind of fucked up.
It was salvageable.
As long as you pick up from there, you can still make something of this. You can fix this. You can do right by the franchise. And they didn't at all. They did exactly the opposite. And I know, there's definitely it seems like these days everything's politicized, but there's definitely, in my opinion, an SJW sort of agenda that's pushed in 8. And it seems to me like that's more rampant throughout not only Hollywood, but like movies and television now. It seems to be more and more prevalent, where they're trying to shove this laundry list of liberal demands, this liberal agenda in your face. They're trying to force feed it to you through film and television. And I have a real hard time with that personally. And I think there's plenty of people who agree with me on that. It's not that I'm against a lot of their ideas, I guess. Like, I'm not against diversity in the sense of like, yeah, all right, if you're this, that, or the other thing, I don't give a fuck who you screw. I don't care what color your skin is, but I don't need you to throw in my face, hey, I'm this, or I'm, like this color. All right? Do you got it? Do you see it? Enjoy it. I'm going to rub your face in it. Look, I don't need that. Is that all you are? Oh, yeah, somebody's trying to speak.
It's like the being gay is not a personality. Yeah.
Right. So, and we've talked about that before. We don't need to go over that again. So, I don't know.
So you can finish your thought, and then I'm going to shift gears on the same topic a little
Actually, I was going to move on, but go ahead.
Okay. So the thing that irritates me is that, and this is actually very common, it's not unique to the Star Wars sequels at all, is that anytime somebody is rebooting something, this tends to happen when they bring back old characters, when the writers and the directors try to recapture what drew the audience to them, but miss the mark completely. And what I mean by that is, like, in Han Solo is probably the biggest example of this. Okay, so he was introduced in A New Hope as this, rogue, this kind of, I only care for myself, and I mean, I also care for Chewie, but that's really it. Like, those are the only people that Han Solo cares about. And then over the course of the trilogy, he kind of grows to, care about other people. And we love him even more for that. And so by the end, he's a changed character. And then you get him in 7, and they're like, "Oh, well, let's bring back the New Hope Han Solo, and try to kind of like force him back into that old role." And it's so I don't know, it's just
it creates
awful. Like
incontinuity.
Yeah, not just in continuity, but it's also just a disservice to all of the growth that the character had. Because, like, you take, it's like Han and Leia end up together at the end of the Return of the Jedi, and presumably go off and live a happy life. But then in order to get him back to that original state, they had to make him basically a dead dad. Who can't hold together his marriage, and it's just like, this is just sad. Like, I don't like this.
No, I don't. I don't much care for Rey either. I think she's a Mary Sue. That's never a good idea. Never a good idea. What they did with the old characters, it seems as though the new writers that they brought on board did not, I guess, either they weren't familiar with or did not care to continue with the already established characterization or character development of all of these beloved characters. Like, there is an identity, a solidified identity to each of these characters where we know them well enough to know what they would and would not do. When they go out of character, it becomes immediately apparent to anyone who's familiar with the source material. So, for example, and Mark Hamill when it was all over the place when it came to episode 8, saying this very same thing. Nothing that they wrote into Luke's character for 8, it was really anything that he would have done. It wasn't who he was. They weren't the decisions that Luke would have made. It wasn't the perspective he would have normally come from. For him to give up like that was just not something he did. He spent 3 films proving that the one thing you couldn't get him to do was give up.
He believed in redemption. And then
all of a sudden, they're just like, nope, he gives up.
I sensed the dark side in him, so I must kill him prematurely. It's just, preemptive strike.
It was the most ridiculous.
Darth Vader, the big bad of the galaxy, was not beyond redemption, but my nephew, I sensed a dark thought in him, so... Yeah,
it was just...
got to just slit his throat.
So, I just... I'm not too thrilled. I watched a reaction video. I don't know if anybody else watches. I Hypocrite has YouTube videos that he's got a series of them. He titles you can't stop progress. And if you haven't seen any of those YouTube videos, go or search YouTube for I Hypocrite. Can't Stop Progress. They're phenomenal. They're just basically a collection of clips of the most recent stuff, in the zeitgeist, as it were, zeitgeist. That is absurd or hypocritical or both, or just really the opposite of progress, if anything. But part of the most recent YouTube video of iHypocrites was there was a part of it that was a clip of some guy doing a reaction video watching the new clip, the new trailer for episode 9, and he's crying. He's literally crying. He's sobbing. His eyes are red. He's tearing up. His lip is quivering, and it was embarrassing to watch. I just felt like, oh, this is not. Oh, like of all the things you can tear up and get emotional about, this, and then to see him do it, like it just.
So you're not doing a good job of selling this YouTube channel.
No. It's worth watching because it's worth being aware of this ridiculousness. It's not to promote. Like he's not. iHypocrite.
Oh, I know. It's just like that's just not something that I have interest in.
It's totally fun to watch, but this is just. I'm just mentioning how it was. Yeah. You hear the term "soy boy" and it's a little cringeworthy. That term, I'll give it that. But boy, did this guy fit that bill? Like, wow, man.
All right. So what topic did you have in mind for next? We got Julian Assange. We got Game of Thrones.
Actually, yeah, I'd like to talk about Game of Thrones really quick. We don't need to.
All right, I'm abstain from this because I started watching this series a couple of years ago. I say a couple of years ago. It was like a long time ago, actually.
Okay. So
I think I stopped in season 3. So.
Oh. Okay.
Anybody that has seen the series is free to be unmuted.
Yeah, if you want to talk about Game of Thrones, let me know.
I've actually had it. If you actually seen it.
I really enjoyed it. I watched it twice over. I watched it the night it came out, and then the day after, I was like, I'm gonna watch it again. It's we're coming to the end of the show, the end of the season. I mean, end of the show. There were a lot of great moments in this season premiere. It's great to see the dragons, as always. A lot of really good work done on the CGI in this. There's a new opener. I know that Joel didn't care for it. He said so. I, however, thought it was phenomenal. I enjoy because it's essentially very similar to the opening that they've used for the past 7 seasons, but this gets a little more detailed. There's a lot more. For anybody who doesn't know, the opener deals a lot with what looks like a mechanical map. Like there's gears and stuff, and things start popping up, and it shows like cities, and so you have this sort of paper mache, but gears and mechanics, and so it's I'm not entirely sure how to describe it, but it's very interesting, and it gets more detailed into that, in my opinion. I thought it was great. Anyway, all your favorite characters are there. They do a great job of kind of starting things off. They really tied up some knots really quickly. I felt there were some storylines where you were like, well, what are they going to do with this? And they just kind of, I guess they have to kind of speed things up a little bit because it is the last season and there's only 8 episodes, I think. So I don't know if any of you saw the memes that were posted in the group, but there's one that shows Jaime, the Queen's brother, and he's got this look of like he just saw a ghost, and it's kind of because he did. It says, when you see the kid you threw out of the fucking window 10 years ago, and that's exactly what that scene is, and it was beautiful. It was just beautiful. That was the tail end of the show. I felt that the writing, I don't know if I was just born to write television shows or write for Hollywood, or if the writing in this was just subpar. And because there were plenty of times where somebody in the show would say something, and before they would get a response from whoever they were speaking to, I would say the thing that they ended up saying. I'd be like, well, if there was a point where someone asks, what do dragons eat anyway? And my immediate thought was, whatever they want. And that, of course, was the exact response. And then somebody says, what do I hold on to when I'm riding a dragon? And my immediate thought was, whatever you can. That's exactly what was said. So it's just funny to me how, and there were several points where that happened to be the case. And I was like, man, I could write this show. I was very proud of myself for thinking of the things that they were going to say before they said them. Because I'm an idiot and I'm easily amused. So I absolutely thought it was really well done. You're right. It is a high budget soap opera. I don't agree that it's awful. I think it's fun. I don't know why you think it's awful, but to each their own. I guess for some people, you like your Bad Boys or whatever. Maybe you like gay porn. I happen to like Game of Thrones. So, to each their own. Whatever. Let's see. Moving on. We've have a few minutes before I want to start in with Aiden. So let's see. What have you heard of what everybody's saying about the new trailer the trailer for the new Joker film? Everybody's up in arms about it because they feel that it is the last thing we need right now is a movie about a cis white male who feels abused or disconnected and decides to commit crime or murder people because he just can't seem to relate or feels somehow victimized, is angry. Like this is a typical angry white male, and we don't need a movie about another one of those. We have enough of that issue already. And I kind of feel like that's ridiculous. This is not about a cis white normative toxic male. That's so bullshit. I think I think this need to focus on skin color and gender identity, racial identity, I think is ridiculous, and I think it's really getting. I mean, it's been ridiculous for a while.
And the funny thing is, these same people who are complaining about this are the type that in every
who say don't label me. Where'd you go, Adam? I think we lost Adam.
Oh,
he got sick of your shit.
Okay, I'm back.
He did, man. Oh, there you are.
Okay.
These same people.
My computer shut off. These same people. Anytime you see they feel the need to create media in which anytime there's like a terrorist character, that terrorist character has to have a reason why they're a terrorist. It's like, oh, America wronged them. There was a soldier who was just a dick, and killed their family and stuff. And it's just like, or sometimes, and sometimes that does happen, or sometimes they just commit terror because that's what they decided to do. Sometimes there isn't a higher reason, so they're perfectly willing to make excuses for that.
True,
but when it comes to,
I would argue that
you can't have a cis white male that has any reason to do what they do.
Right, and that's the thing, is that I think that I guess the argument is that you're trying to justify by giving a film that shows this, you're justifying or normalizing this kind of behavior from these kinds of people, and we already have enough disaffected white males. We don't need them being radicalized by this movie. I don't buy that, but I think that's the thinking or the reasoning. Here's the thing. I don't understand why there isn't the idea that this is the story any of us can relate to. It doesn't matter if you're female. It doesn't matter if you're male. It doesn't matter if you're black or white or Asian. This is a story about a man who gets thrust into a society that is cold, exploitative, abusive, hard as nails, and is just against him, and how that hardens him. And I don't see how any of us can't relate to that to some degree. And that inability to capture that, to grasp that point, how this should be common ground for all of us. And yet somehow people aren't seeing that. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? I've lost everyone. All right. Well, that's just my 2 cents on the matter. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, or if anybody
I just feel like at this point we have taken, some fairly legitimate issues in the form of, toxic masculinity and things like that. And rather than just see it and handle it as the issue that it is, we are looking too far ahead of ourselves to, oh no, this is going to turn into that. And so we're basically finding things where there's nothing to fucking find, to the degree that we have gotten into this culture of injecting shit where it just isn't even a thing. And right, I think that people just need something to bitch about instead of just being grateful that fucking Jared Leto isn't the one getting the fucking standalone right now.
Oh,
that's
thank
what
God
we should really
for that.
Focus on. Yeah, I think that's what we should really be focusing on, is our gratitude that we get Joaquin fucking Phoenix, baby. I'm so excited. I love Joaquin Phoenix. I do.
I was really concerned about who they were going to get because he did such a phenomenal job, and it's hard to imagine anyone being able to compete with that performance. But everything I've seen from Joaquin in his career, and then everything I've seen of him from the trailer, is phenomenal. He fits the part. He looks the part. He does it well. And I can't count how many times he has played the broken individual many times before, and I think he's going to do a phenomenal job doing this in this movie as well. I'm really excited for it. I thought it looked great. I can't wait to see it. So
the thing I don't get is this reaction that if you try to portray why an evil person thinks the way they do, or like the events that led them to think the way they do, that's somehow justifying their evil.
But it's not.
It's not. You're right.
Yeah. Now there's basically 2 prongs to this, and the first one is actually legitimate. Apparently, I'm not a huge comic book guy, but from what I understand, the Joker doesn't really have a backstory in the comics, and
that's not entirely true.
Is that not okay?
No, here's the thing. It's not that he doesn't have a backstory. It's that there's been a handful of backstories that have been thrown out there, and so it leaves you wondering, well, which one is the real one?
Exactly.
Which kind of led.
There's no real canon backstory.
Right. There's not a specific. There is one that I would say the fans tend to lean towards the most, which is the Killing Joke. There's in the graphic novel, The Killing Joke, and then they made a animated film, which kind of it sticks to it mostly. I'd say 75%, but if there's a backstory provided in that graphic novel, and I would say that most comic book fans and fans of the Joker and the Batman mythos, as it were, feel that that's the one that fits the most, or is the most appealing.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is like the people who are like, okay, this character is just supposed to be the embodiment of chaotic evil, without any sort of like logic to it. And giving this character a concrete backstory kind of does a disservice. I can get that argument. The thing that I don't get is this idea of, oh well, you're excusing his evil because you're saying that he had a hard life, and it's like no. There was a clip of Jordan Peterson that went around a while back, in which he goes through like Hitler's basically backstory, for lack of a better term. His life in World War One, like what he personally saw, and what kind of led him to believe that that this horrid act of evil is was what was best for Germany, or justifiable. And people were like, "Oh, he's a Nazi sympathizer." It's like, no, you need to understand where evil comes from in order to defeat it.
When did we lose that? When did we lose the?
I'm like, are cancer researchers pro-cancer all of a sudden? Like,
right. When did we
try to understand something in order to stop it? Suddenly, you're in favor of it.
Know your enemy. The best way to defeat your enemy is to know your enemy, and somehow we've lost that, and I don't understand where that came to be. And that seems to be a prevalent approach and perspective when it comes to the left. You see it whenever you have your protests and there's journalists and whatnot who want to interact, and they want to ask. You go to a Trump rally and you say, "Hey, I'd like to ask you a few questions about why you're here and why you support Trump, or what your deal is." And I've yet to see anyone say, "Fuck off, get out of here, I'm not talking to you," from a Trump rally. When you go to a leftist protest, whether it be Antifa or there's a myriad of leftist groups that tend to protest out in DC or outside of the White House. There's all kinds, or just all over the country. Every single one I've seen, there's an immediate defensiveness, and they want to know what outlet are you with, what news organization are you with? Are you a right-leaning news organization? Who are you? And I don't want to talk to you, and I don't want to be filmed, and there's just this standoffishness, and it's like you have to be willing to engage and communicate if you're going to have your message heard, number one, and number two, if you're going to understand the other side. How do you expect to defeat your enemy, whether it be a battle of words or ideas or not, on any
battle? You can't prove that yours is the superior argument if you're not even willing to come to the table.
Because you can't, right? You won't even know. You will be unprepared because you have no idea what your enemy has in their arsenal, as it were. I offered to come on speaker. All right, you know what? I'm gonna give you the opportunity. So we're gonna bring Chad or Jack. I wish I knew you'll have to tell us what your real fucking name is, bud. And I'm gonna bring him on, and then after that, we're going to move on to Aiden. All right, Jack, you are unmuted on this end. It looks like you have yourself muted. Caleb Stone. Oh, is your name Caleb? I used to know a guy named Caleb. I don't like him. You're unmuted, bud. Are you gonna You're muted on your end. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to try and figure that out. I need to call.
Yeah, that sounds needlessly complex.
Why do you need to call and be put on speakerphone? Are you using a phone?
Why?
Are you on your phone using the Discord app? Is that how you're connected with us right now? Or are you using a laptop or a computer? I'm on a real computer. Does your computer not have microphone capabilities? Is that the problem?
It's probably a dinosaur.
Yeah. Whatever. Let's commence the interview.
Yeah, you know what? I would love to. That isn't what I do. I'd love to help you, man, but I can't.
That is way too many hoops for us to jump through.
Yeah. All I'm really willing to do is to, or able to do really, is just unmute you on our end.
We'll click a few buttons. Yeah, we don't like to do a lot of work here on the House of Augur show. Anything more than a few clicks is too much. So
if
get
you
a
figure out a way
microphone
to,
or go away.
if you figure out a way to get yourself situated to where if we unmute you, you can talk to us, great. Let us know. Till then, hey, we'll continue to read your texts in the chat.